Hey, it's a match once again. We're about to another video, and this is a paid request for Shawn. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, commentaries, reviews, re-reviews, whatever the case may be, PayPal is usually the best bet, or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this time I'm talking about Back to the Future Part 2, the commentary. Thank you once again, Shawn. I'm getting set up. I have subtitles on so I don't get copyright. Paused here. Thanks, Shawn, once again. 3, 2, 1, pressing play. So yeah, Shawn was nice enough to send in a few commentary requests. One of them was for the 3 Back to the Future films, the trilogy. So, thus, we're getting on to Part 2. Now, I'm going to try not to repeat too much what I said Back to the Future 1, but I'll probably fail on that. Robert Zemeckis was definitely finding a lot of success at this time because he had done Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That was a huge hit. This would be a huge hit. And the summer of '89 was crazy because you had Batman with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. You had Lethal Weapon 2, you had Ghostbusters 2, you had Honey and Shrunk the Kids, James Bond film, License to Kill. You had a lot of big movies in that year. Now, of course, it just is crazy. But anyway, how many movies came out that summer alone? And that's the only time you don't see Crispin Glover in this movie. But as you see, that is a fairly young Elizabeth Shue. Now, of course, this footage was different in the first film, and the fact that this stuff had to be reshot because the actress who played our original girlfriend for Marty McFly, from what I understand, her mom was going through health issues and cancer, so it made sense why that would take front and center. So they had to recast, and you got Elizabeth Shue. I'm sure it helped matters as well because you're linking. The first film was '85. We're in '89, so that's a 4-year difference. People age a lot in 4 years. So to have like footage from 4 years ago, and then they go through time, and all of a sudden they're 4 years older. This actually probably works in the continuity of the, within the same film itself. So it doesn't look like you went from one scene to the other and 4 years change on their faces. But for the most part, is of course supposed to be the same as the ending of the first. Which, for I understand, was never meant to be like a sequel-bait ending. They just thought it'd be a cool way to end the first film. And they thought, okay, well, if we do this, we're going to do it back to back. So they filmed both films. They filmed this. They took a couple, I don't know, 2-3 weeks break, and then shot the third film. So this came out in 1989, and the third one came out in 1990. Now the budget I read was $40 million. I'm guessing that's $40 million for both films together. Although, I mean, if $40 million a piece could be right as well. I don't know. But budgets back then were still not as crazy as way budgets are now. Now, when I was a kid, this is the one I watched the most. Now, I would say as years have come and gone, the first has become my favorite. But as a kid, this was always... As a kid, this was my favorite. I still quite like the sequel a lot because I think it's very creative. The alternate, like the alternate 1985 and the future, the way they make the future look, and then we go back to the first film, 1955, and we see the first film from a different point of view. Just a very creative sequel. I think just because the first film, although it has that ending, still felt like its own thing, while this, it's hard to, when you have a trilogy, that second film that's like, okay, well, the beginning is previously on Back to the Future. Then the ending is a cliffhanger ending, so you don't, you have a beginning but not quite. You have an ending but not quite, so it's kind of that weird influx in between that it's best to watch with another movie, if that makes sense. As in the preferred notion. And while the first film was not a big special effects movie, this one is definitely much more of an effects movie. I mean, this whole scene where they're flying and you're at the hill valley that's in the clouds and all that. I think either Robert Zemeckis or Bob Gale even mentioned, no, the first film, when it ended, it wasn't meant to be a sequel. Because if it was, we never would have taken the girlfriend with. Because that was the issue. What do we do about the girlfriend? Thus, Christopher Lloyd knocks her out. She's kind of put somewhere and kind of moved a bit. But that was their obstacle. Like, damn, like, they would have preferred just Marty McFly and Doc. Because, oh, now we got this girlfriend, what do we do with her? Well, knock her out. And it's crazy, like, the future, that year has passed. And in fact, it's been quite a few years after that future. And, you know, we don't have flying cars, we don't have hoverboards, we don't have this, we definitely don't have this. It, well, I guess if he's through time, so. Yeah, the weather definitely isn't. Weathermen don't know their head from their ass, sadly. But I love, like, their notion that they said where, listen, there's no way we could predict the future and be correct. So we're just going to be creative and have fun with it, which is what they did. So, like, the costumes and the holograms and all the other stuff, it just made a fun future. And I think as a kid, I was much more interested in the future than the past. I still am to this day on that. Much more concerned about what's in the future. Maybe that's why I like sci-fi I'm more intrigued by than films that take place in the 40s or something. Self-lacing shoes, Nikes. I know Nike actually eventually did make something like this. I think like a promotional thing, but yeah. I didn't ideas like that. Okay, you have a coat. What if the coat like can, whatever the size is, can fit you? Same with it, it could dry you off when you get drenched. But this is like kind of a weird notion. We don't. Hey, give me your girlfriend. We're gonna leave her in a damn alleyway. Which I'm thinking, why don't you just leave her in the car? Like, why leave her in the alley? It's such a weird thing. Like, yeah, just leave her in an alleyway. Again, I'm sitting there going, why doesn't Doc Brown just keep her in the car? I mean, why not? And if he needs to knock her out again, he could do his do. So we get the story here of we've come to the future to save your kid and make sure your kid doesn't ruin his life. Well, I mean, I guess really, if you think about the notion, is why would you need Martin McFly to oh, because you need to replace him and just tell Biff or Griff, whatever the hell his name is, just say no. That's right. But listen, like Doc Brown's leaving. Why does he just take Elizabeth Shue with him? Hell, just take her back to the. That's the thing. You have a time machine. Just take her back to the present, drop her off at her house, and then go back here. Like, you could do that. You have a damn time machine. Just go to that date and time. What time is it? Okay. Go back. I'll come back. Right at the minute. Or 2 minutes later. There you go. He's got a time machine. Just bring Elizabeth Shue back to the present. Not. I don't know. I don't know why. Because it's a movie. This time it's really, really personal. Jaws 19. Because Jaws 4 is this time is personal. I always love this Jaws hologram thing. That'd be a cool promotional tool too. It's such a cool one. Of course, this is a take on just how many Jaws sequels are coming out. Because in 1987, there was Jaws 4. And it was considered such a ridiculous movie. Although they jumped the gun, I mean, definitely no Jaws 19. I mean, we got quite a few yet left to get to there. It's funny to see this Cafe 80s because that is a real type of thing. I mean, nostalgia, selling nostalgia. Of course, you got Roger Rabbit doll. You got Jaws, the video game for Nintendo. I mean, there are plenty of stores like this that's just totally nostalgic. There's one on the 70s, the 80s. Nowadays, it doesn't seem like a weird thing. Maybe the costumes people wear. And of course, Michael Jackson. Definitely not how Michael Jackson looked. Let alone moving like Max Headroom. Is that supposed to be... Yeah, Ronald Reagan. Yeah. And again, the reason they're moving like that is because you have these commercials like Max Headroom. But I guess, I don't know, VR, CG animated stuff, which definitely common nowadays. And a Pepsi. Interesting bottle for it, but... Even like the whole thing where you have these things by that it looks like you press and you order. That's how it is in McDonald's now. If you go to McDonald's, it's like we human don't want to take the order. Go to the thing and type it in. I'm like, that's not my job. My job is to tell you and then pay you. Thomas F. Wilson. great asset to these films. Pretty much telling how Marty McFly flushed his career down the toilet, screwed everything up. Not his toilet, his life. We find out what that is at the end of Back to the Future 3, the car race. But this is talk about like the ambitious special effects, like to have two Thomas F. Wilsons in the same frame, and then you have like two Marty McFlys in the same frame. This might be my favorite version of Thomas F. Wilson, the Drift. Just how like it's like Biff but on speed. Now of course one of these little kids is a very young Elijah Wood. Right there in the middle in the orange. Yeah. Elijah Wood of course later being Lord of the Rings and the Good Son. You mean you have to use your hands? That's a baby's toy. I don't know what the hell you would use if not your hands. What, you dick? And that's what I mean. Like, I remember watching this even back to the day and going, wow, just within 15, 16 minutes, just how creative it is. Like, they have multiple versions of characters, this future setting, and just what creativity could come up with. Look at the costumes these folks are wearing. And of course, you see one of the crew is Jason Scott Lee, who would later be in Dragging the Bruce Lee story. They don't, well, don't say on the right there. But yeah, Jason Scott Lee. Who's in what, I think Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College, is one of the college students. And, yeah, right here. Probably Dragging the Bruce Lee story is his most famous. He was also in Soldier with Kurt Russell. Those boys don't flow in water unless you have power. And this must have been interesting for the actors to just have like multiple versions of characters to play. The chicken. This is where it starts the running theme for two films, where he does not like being called chicken and it always gets him into trouble. This here, the old version, Marty McFly, or was it Needles calls him chicken, all that stuff. So it didn't get that running theme. Of course, this time blocks the punch, unlike the first movie, where he's able to punch Biff, but not Griff. And as the older Biff will say, this seems awfully familiar. Nasty board, but a hoverboard. By Mattel. I do remember that little making of back to the day where they made it seem as if the hoverboard was real. Does Robert Zemeckis... Well, not even that. Robert Zemeckis just made a joke. Oh yeah, we got a working prototype of our hoverboard, and there were people that took him seriously going, well, where's the real hoverboard? Of course, whenever I think of these hoverboards, I always think of Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, the video game. When you're in that level, it's pretty much F-Zero, and you're flying and floating around doing this. I just think people love the idea of... I don't know how it would manage in real life. I know there were a few people that were trying to make these reality. But even if they did, it would work maybe for like 10 seconds till they fell on their face. Yeah, but the hoverboard is just a very fun sci-fi idea. You know, you do stuff like this. There you go. Which I always loved, like the line here, Jason Scott Lee's part of it. Unless you got power. It's just something about that. Unless you have power. See, like Townsend Wilson's like it's Biff, but this for this version, Drift, it just on some kind of drug. I don't know what. I mean, there's guards in front of the museum. You think they would see all this? I mean, they are seeing all this. There you go. Goodbye. Do some wire work. Crash right through. Well, I do think the first film. I think the first film is a better story in terms of the characters and like a bit deeper into the characters and the arc of like his dad finally growing a backbone of son, getting to know a bit of who his mom and dad were when they were kids, that type of thing. So I would say like Back to the Future 1 has the biggest heart of the three. That's probably the reason why I like the first the best. This one is definitely, I think, the most adventurous one. The most creative, adventurous one. And funny enough, around this time, like the future, the Cubs did finally win the World Series. I forget what year it was specifically, but was it the same year? I can't remember. Pretty around the same time. Of course, I mean, buying this nostalgia stuff is now commonplace. Just go to eBay. Of course, Bar is like, man, I could make a lot of money on this. I mean, in a way, it is the golden ticket. Up there you go. Probably should have found a better spot to go to. Like, you know, maybe a few blocks away. But what I meant by like felt much more of an adventure, I would say the most adventurous of all of them, is because again, all the different time periods you go to, again, the future, the Ultra 85, the past, runs the whole gamut of stuff. And there's the USA Today drone. I don't know if I ever noticed that the US Today drone. Although that one shot looked like I could literally see the wires hanging from it. When it's looking through the camera, I swear I could literally see the wires on there. Which is obviously how they did. They just swung it with wires, but like, you could clearly see it in that one shot. Like it was so it's fine for Marty McFly to take the hoverboard with him to the past, but not the sports almanac. Well, I mean that's the thing, Doc. I mean, if you want to get rid of the sports almanac, are you going to get rid of the hoverboard too? See, that's the thing though. Like, that's what I'm talking about. At the beginning of the movie, you had a time machine, Doc. Why didn't you just put her in the car, go back to the past, leave her at her place, and just move on? That way you wouldn't have to deal with all this. Just saying, but there's a distant notion what happens if two people meet. Either A, they pass out, which is what happens, or B, this cataclysm event. Be lucky it wasn't like Time Cop, where they meld and mold into one being and became everything then nothing. Yep, and there you go. He heard everything. Sorry, I'm just watching on. Again, it's interesting. I like the first film. There's very, very few special effects. There's the test of the time machine, and then later on, when they go back to the future. Here, it's like, oh, we got flying cars. We got, all this other stuff. Multiple composite shots. Same actress or same actor in the same frame. These officers are like, what do they have, like weird like, lightsaber batons or something? Say pretty hot looking cops. Did he marry in the chapel of love? And we're seeing this movement. It's like almost this dance turn to get to the door. And Michael J. Fox is the daughter. Not sure if I ever needed to see that image. And there's an older Leah Thompson. And here's where all the fuss came about with Crispin Glover. I will tell the story again, just in case. So Crispin Glover, of course, the dad in Back to the Future 1, he had said something where he had issues with the film about how, the ending dealt with materialism and all this other stuff, but it's like, oh, whatever, dude. But then Back to the Future Part 2 came about. Now, Bob Gale says that Crispin Glover wanted too much money. And in fact, I think he wanted to be paid as much as Michael J. Fox. Or maybe Robert Zemeckis said... Like, Bob Gale maybe said that, and then Robert Zemeckis said, well, he wanted too much money. Whatever the case may be, Crispin Glover didn't do the film. Now, this guy who's upside down, that's supposed to be Crispin Glover's character, I guess the idea is that they had a mold of Crispin Glover's face. I guess because, like in the early stages of the film, it's supposed to be, it's 1985, then he's supposed to look older than he did, of course, in 1955. So obviously they had a mold. I guess they used his mold on that guy's face, and that was a big no-no. And, like, there was another interview when Crispin Glover said, listen, if they just wanted to hire a different actor, and that's it, okay. But then that they used my mold to put on his face, and so people would literally go that I was in the movie, which I never was, pretty much had to... pretty much sued. And from what I understand, he won. And I'm sure that got a lot of people in an uproar. And Crispin Glover, I think he patched things up with Robert Zemeckis. I think he might have worked with Zemeckis at the end. But Bob Gale, I know he does not like Bob Gale and vice versa. And Crispin Glover's like, Bob Gale's a liar. He's making these stories up that I wanted to get paid as much as Michael J. Fox. That's not true. And he spreads these lies on these Blu-rays. I mean, this is what Crispin says. Which is one of the reasons why you don't really see Crispin Glover in reunions for the film. Because him and Bob Gale still... Bob Gale might not honestly give a crap, but Crispin Glover, you tell, really does not like Bob Gale, who co-wrote the film and produced these films. So, again, that's one of the reasons why you don't see Crispin Glover at reunions and stuff. And I'm sure that hurt Crispin Glover's career for a bit. I mean, I'm sure he continued to work, and if I look up like what he did in the 90s and stuff, but it might not have been anything huge, because, now you're going up against Robert Zemeckis, who's a big director with Who Framed Roger Rabbit and the first Back to the Future, and then on top of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, yeah. Then Steven Spielberg is producing it. It'd be interesting to have something like this. Like, you have these mini pizzas and they turn to this. And that quick. I wish I could make a pizza that quick. That was a big effects scene where you have like 3 Michael J. Foxes. Yeah, I think that you gotta do each bit. Like, okay, you gotta put up makeup on this. Then you gotta look like a girl on this. Yeah, it even says here, During filming, Crispin Glover vocalized his objections to the film's ending, believing it to be too capitalistic and materialistic in intent. Robert Zemeckis ignored his complaints. Due to these initial disagreements and a salary dispute, Glover did not return for either of Back to the Future sequels. No idea, maybe they were just bad at Crispin Glover being difficult to work with, and they were kind of glad to not work with him in the second film, though in the third one. So maybe they found a reason and said, you're gone, or maybe I don't know. Maybe it's the other thing. Maybe it's just, yeah, you wanted too much money and okay, goodbye. Hey, yeah, Crispin Glover was in Beowulf, the 2007 film with Robert Zemeckis, so there you go. So yeah, and after 1989, he was in Wild at Heart, The Doors. And he would do like smaller films. You just see like Ruben and Ed, 30 Door Tea, even Cowgirls Get the Blues. Was he in Gilbert Grape? And it wasn't until like 2000 where he got Charles. I mean, he was never like I guess to be fair, he's never like a actor people seeked out all the time. Charlie's Angels 2000, Willard 2003. So, take that for you will. So I don't know. Maybe it didn't hurt his career. He just was too picky. I don't know. But he always seemed like a weird dude to me anyway, because of I didn't just look at his David Letterman performance. When I say performance, like he's doing an interview, but he's being all kooky and weird, like it's a performance. Of course, I skipped the whole bit with Marty McFly, the older one, getting fired. We see him playing the guitar, and we see he can't really do it as well because of the accident that screwed everything up. And again, that's the accident we would see almost take place at the end of Back to the Future Part 3. Is the same being called chicken thing by Needles, played by Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Now again, if Marty McFly had just stayed in the car, then everything would have been fine. But for some reason, Marty had to leave the car and just... Which was stupid anyway, because what if anybody else somehow recognized him and thought he was his son, which he looks almost the same? You would want to be incognito, not just wander around, and I hope nobody in this neighborhood is friends with my son and think I'm him. As I know, we gotta get him away, so he just steal the car. Doesn't make sense, but whatever. Now, I know there's a deleted scene where you actually see Biff, the older Biff, kind of die, like dematerialize, because his version would be gone. It'd be the Biff that was rich and powerful. Of course, I should mention once again the great Alan Silvestri does the music for this. He does a wonderful job. Granted, you don't have songs from Huey Lewis in the News, but you do once again have a great score. So you have your fun, kind of, I don't want to say cartoony, but fun, a little more lighthearted affair with the first act. Now you don't have your darker bit in the second act of the film. I find out if Elizabeth Shue, this is where she'll be at until the third movie. Like, she won't be here until the third. She'll be here until the third film, where Marty wakes her up in his cowboy outfit. Of course, we first notice a little bit of difference here. The bars on the windows, and of course we see all the graffiti here. And of course, we're going to find out that Marty don't live here. He's in the wrong place. Well, he's at the right place, just the wrong dimension, the wrong time. And yeah, the Ultra 1985 I think that concept I just found very intriguing. And just a really cool idea. That things have changed and shifted so much that you're technically in the same time, but I said the whole notion of the alternate 85, I don't know what it is, the details. It just really cool idea. You know, you would think when Doc was driving up, they would have noticed all this stuff. Like Doc is driving Marty. You think you notice all this? Well, they came the other way. You're telling me the other way had none of this stuff? Only this way has all the crap cars and stuff, but the other way is perfectly fine? But yeah, just this much darker, not violent, but much darker take on it is. Like I said, it was a cool direction that didn't make it feel like a carbon copy of the first. A sequel that doesn't feel like you're copying the first film. Even the third act, like, you're in the first film, but much more of a intriguing way to help tell your story. You have James Tolkien here as Strickland. Nice to see him back here. Still calling people slacker. Mentioning about the school, what the burned down and stuff. I mean, we saw the positive aspects of changing the future with WAP at the end of the first film. Now we see the much more negative effects. There's Buck Flower there, who was at the end of the first Back to the Future we saw briefly, and was in John Carpenter films like The Fog and They Live, and among other films. Da, 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 da. Not a bad song here. 65. Do, 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 do. It's pretty much become Detroit. I don't know. Own like militia, got a damn tank. Toxic waste plant. Biff Tannen's Pleasure Paradise. The Biff Tannen Museum. I mean, the first movie is just this bully that takes things too far. This is like super villain level in this movie, but I love it. That's a little clue for the third film. Hill Valley Man wins big races. And I'm just on a winning streak. I mean, you would think at a point people would think, okay, he must be cheating. This must be some way he's cheating. I don't know, can one guy really make something legalized, like gambling? I love Michael J. Fox's reaction here. Very genuine. The easy way. There you go. Of course, we saw Billy Zane there and Casey Shamasco. Casey, they were in the first movie. Of course, they were also in. Casey Shamasco was in Young Guns and 3 O'Clock High. Billy Zane, of course, going to be in Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, and Titanic, and The Phantom. Now, of course, this scene, as mentioned before, is pretty much similar in all three movies. First was Leah Thompson very young. Here's Leah Thompson very big. Just the idea of just Biff being his father, and it's such a neat plot development, just a neat concept to take a sequel into. You have your future, you have your past, but this whole thing, it's just like the the future part is really cool to look at. The stuff in the past is really intriguing. It's clever. Obviously, if the first part is very cool to look at, and the third part is very clever, and seeing again the first film and different point of view, this is definitely the most interesting part of the film for me. And while I do like the future parts, and I do like I think for people maybe the future parts would be the most memorable parts. But I think as a whole, this part is what really makes the movie work as a whole. Because this is definitely where you get the big thrust of the story. Just how worse things are, where his mom's at, where his dad passing away. Which, of course, again, they had to find a way to get Crispin Glover out of there since he didn't come back. So the future part, they put the prosthetics on the guy, and also we make him upside down so you couldn't look too closely. I think Crispin Glover To be honest, I think he either someone told him about it or he eventually saw the film and felt in his eyes felt embarrassed of my character is like upside down and his hair's always falling, and he definitely didn't like the guy's performance. So, which is why he sued. I know there's another deleted scene where we actually see Marty McFly's brother, which is I forgot, I always forget his name. Jimmy Olsen from Superman the movie, and those early Christopher Reeve Superman films. I always do Mark Metcalf and Mark McClure. Like, I know one's the guy like Animal House and one's the Jimmy Olsen. I'm bad with names. I know his first name's Mark. Mark Metcalf or Mark McClure. I always do. I'm bad with names. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I mean, it definitely makes Biff more of a threat. It's one thing to be a bully and punch someone. It's another thing to be an outright murderer. And this really showed you that, yeah, Biff is a murderer. Now, Greg, you don't know at this point. You think he died from other causes, but what year did it say he died? 1973. I mean, yeah, he had to live long enough to have the 3 kids. I didn't notice that. I realized that he was born on April Fool's Day. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely on purpose. To have George McFly be born on April Fool's Day, April 1st. Shot dead. And this is where they get into the notion of what's happening. And Doc explains it for the audience in case they're confused. But at least it's in a succinct, fast pattern. It doesn't take too much time, so I actually don't mind this scene. Went to the past, change things, there you go. Yep, the plot is coming together. And this one definitely feels like, I keep saying more adventure, but definitely a bigger threat, bigger scope to everything. Because I mean, obviously there's a threat, of course, in the first movie where Marty he was going to disappear, same with his brother and sister. But here, like a whole town and his dad and everything's been changed, and it's just gotta fix it. Emmett Brown committed. Crackpot inventor declared legally insane. And this is the George McFly murdered one. Now, of course, the Clint Eastwood here, definitely a nod to what we'll see in the third movie with the bulletproof vest. But Michael J. Fox does a great job. I mean, there's that notion of, Eric Stoltz was going to do the first film. They filmed, what was it? They filmed a lot. They filmed like, what, 6 weeks? Like, you look at it, Eric Stoltz filmed being in detention with the principal, Strickland, played by James Tolkien. He filmed when the DeLorean test run and Martin McFly having the camcorder. They filmed him talking with Crispin Glover at the diner, and Biff comes in. In fact, if you watch Back to the Future, I didn't realize this, when Marty punches Biff, you see like a little bit of the face. That's, I believe, Eric Stoltz doing the punch onto Thomas F. Wilson. The bit where Marty is with Leah Thompson in bed and she's trying to talk with them, and Martin McFly's going, "Uh-oh." Eric Stoltz did that scene. He did the scene when the 1.21 gigawatts, they did that scene. Eric Stoltz did a lot of the movie. It's insane. But it was for the better. And I don't mind Eric Stoltz, but Michael J. Fox, he did do the innocence and the comedy. But like this scene here is dead serious as he should be, because it involves the death of his father as well as the other stuff, and he should be super serious in this. And Michael J. Fox handles it very well. Yeah, it's a damn shame what happened with him and the Parkinson's and stuff. It's a damn shame. Of course, the matches, those will be used a bit later. I do like that move. Like, just like, say anything. What the hell is that? And this one just felt a bit more like an action film as well. That's probably also what enticed me as a kid. And still really enjoy it to this day, but I just meant of the three films, this is the one I watched more so as a kid. Yep, going up. And I mean, obviously I'll be getting to Back to the Future 3 sometime, because that was one of the requests, but I own the police. With the same gun. Now I wonder how Dot Brown knew this was going to happen. Like, was he hearing the gunshots? Was he able to see up that high? Was the again makes me wonder how Dot knew this was going to happen. Like, Marty needed this, need this help. Back to 1955 again. Which I think originally they had to go back to the 60s. Because we want to show a bit different period. It's in the past, but it's a little bit after the first film, Summer of Love. But like, well, wait a minute, we got an opportunity here to do something very unique, like to actually go back to the first film, and we have scenes from the first film, but then we have a different point of view of it. Like, definitely makes things more fascinating. Felt like I was just here yesterday. I mean, almost deadly you were. Well, yeah, he got knocked out, then he woke up. But now that I think about it, was that all supposed to take place the same night? Now that I think about it, at least up to this point. Well, no, it was daytime and then nighttime. Yeah, to be fair, I just been like the 1985 stuff. I do like the STA where Mario almost fell in his eye. Michael J. Fox almost fell in his ass. I wonder how the hell you got all this money. Yep, definitely inconspicuous. Keep off the grass. Like in a way, like Biff in this, he's still a bully, but definitely seemingly more innocent. Not innocent, but more, not as much the murderer type as he would in later years, 1985, so to speak. And then it gives like a different context to the first film. Like, okay, this is stuff that was happening when we weren't with Marty McFly and such in the first movie. Like, this is what was happening. Okay, this is what happening with Biff after his truck got smashed to the manure. Okay, this is what he was doing. This is where he was living. This is what was happening. This is what how he got a different car. Or the cleaned up car, I should say. Sorry, I'm not saying much. It's hard to talk for 2 hours straight, at least for me. Does it just run out of stuff to say? Because I didn't make the film. Had nothing to do with making the film, so. I have to try to look up to see if I can find any trivia on the film. Yeah, this thing with Biff, this age, he doesn't quite know how to tell these insults. Make like a tree and get out of here. And even the older Biff, it's like, make like a tree and leave. God, I hate when, it sounds so stupid when you do it wrong. I take that back. This is my favorite Biff from the first movie, and then the 50s. Yeah, I take it back what I said before. This is my favorite Biff. Who told Butthead, Butthead? Yeah, this is definitely my favorite. His attitude, especially as he just doesn't quite get all that stuff. There you go. The Sports Almanac. Yep, make like a tree and get out of here. And I think that book, something, when he flipped the book up, something about it, I don't know if it had to be animated composite, because it does look a bit funky when he throws it up. Probably just has to go from one to the other. Where's the proof is in the pudding? There you go. Shut up, phone. Hate typing on this damn phone. Trivia. So there's the trivia here. Trivia. Plotline of George McFly being dead in 1985 was based entirely on Crispin Glover's refusal to do the sequel. Yeah, sorry, I'm being silent just looking through this. Robert Zemeckis has said he really did not want the movie to take place in the future because he felt that every time that movie takes place in the future, it's mispredicted. According to Michael J. Fox, he found out there was going to be a sequel to Back to the Future when he watched the VHS version and the words "to be continued" were added at the end. He immediately called his agent to make sure he was going to be in the sequel. Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale admitted that they were originally not interested in doing a sequel and that the open ending of the first was meant as a final joke. When plans for a sequel were made by the studio, they chose to remain involved in the continuation of the creation, even extended it to 2 sequels. Zemeckis has claimed that if he knew he was going to make a sequel, he would have made sure that Marty's girlfriend, Jennifer, was not in the car at the end of the first film. There's just not much for her to do. Yeah, I mentioned that. Crispin Glover sued the filmmakers. He had not granted permission to use his likeness for Part 2. Crispin's suit named John Doe 1 to 100 as defendants, where he did not have to name all the individuals he was suing. Crispin ended up dropping the lawsuit after the case was settled out of court for $765,000 by Universal's insurance company, who decided it would be cheaper to pay Crispin than go to trial. The Screen Actors Guild subsequently introduced new rules about illicit use of actors. And sorry I'm being silent just looking through this. Robert Zemeckis was unhappy about the way Universal marketed the film. He wanted to be made clear that the film was ultimately a setup for Back to the Future 3, but Universal wanted to advertise it as his own film. This backfired because this film ends with "to be concluded," that frustrated many audiences, resulting in a bad word of mouth and dramatic fall off in the film's office receipts in the second week. Hmm. No, whatever. I just ended there. Not the commentary, but me looking. Just now we're getting to some of the stuff I was talking about. Just how interesting this is. We're at the dance from the first movie, but now we're seeing what else was going on during that whole thing. Like, this is what Biff was doing. This is what Strickland was doing. This is what other people were doing during that time. Yeah, I remember I made a mistake where I'm like, oh, what is Billy Zane the first film? When I did the first commentary, I'm like, oh no, there he is. There's Billy Zane. When I see that right there, like him seeing himself. Anytime I see Biff with that magazine, I always think of Michael J. Fox's reaction later. Ooh la la, ooh la la, ooh la la. just, just a pretty, just a very entertaining reaction by Michael there. I mean, in a bit. Now, yeah, I think maybe this moment here is why maybe Biff burnt down the whole damn school later on when he got rich. That or the town was so bad that everybody else burnt down the school. And yeah, it's so cool. Like, we're able to intrude on the first movie and what's going on. And just a lot of good, clever ideas in this movie. I appreciate its ambitiousness. It could have played it lazy and just copy the first film. And it didn't. I really do appreciate that. And I feel like you get your money's worth. Like, you have all the future stuff. That alone could have been a film. And then you got it's not a film that didn't feel like nothing happened. Quite the opposite. Definitely did a journey through time in this installment. Now I know critics did not like this as much as the first one, but I mean that happens a lot with sequels. Not all the time, to be fair, but that happens a lot with sequels. I'm sure there's some people that felt it didn't need a sequel, or this one's more about special effects, or gimmicks, as they would call it. You know, the composite shots, all that other stuff. But God. There you go. This is coming to what I was saying. Ooh la la. No. Ooh la la. Ooh la la. Yeah, and you see the bat there, and like you, as a fan of the first one, you go, "Oh, you know where this is going." Like I said, I might have seen this. I think I saw this before the first movie. I kept thinking that, where I would always see like this whole sequence from this point of view in Back to the Future 2. And then seeing the full context of it in Back to the Future 1. But I don't know, maybe that was like because I just watched this more as a kid. It just, my brain just maneuvers it into that type of thinking. And it's also cool that, you know, Mark gets to see his dad punch the guy out. Of course, in the first film, he came out there too late, but the fact he's able to see his dad knock the guy out and go, yeah, yeah, that's a nice endearing moment. Son to be proud of his father. Tries to use as many scenes as they can of not showing Crispin's face. He's like, what's CPR? This is. Boom. Apparently this guy doesn't know what the hell a wallet is. Apparently he thinks a wallet is this big. I think you took that guy's wallet. Oh, the wallet that's this big? You don't know what a wallet is, apparently. Up here we go. Up again, we get more clues to the third film, the 1885 bit of here. Same with this catching on this ribbon thing, or this line. It's like a kite. Yeah, I remember like that scene where, you know, Marty does this and you have the band. Did they shoot like other cameras and use that? Okay, we have this from the first film, or what? Did they just invite all the band members back to be on that stage again? Maybe they had like other photography where we'll have the camera this far away. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they mentioned that on the commentary. And again, now he's got to save himself. We'll get out of there. No, not me, the other me. Yep. And we'll get to find out more about what happened to Biff in the first movie. It's also interesting when you watch Back to the Future 1 again, you just think like all this stuff has happened at the same time. Like you're playing Johnny Be Good, but you also have certain people ready to kick your ass or do whatever to you. Again, sorry I'm not saying much. I won't ruin the flow of the movie, so I gotta grab a drink of water, so while this is going about, I'll just let it play and I'll be right back. See you in a bit. See you in a bit. Alright, I was paused. 1 hour, 27 minutes, 22 seconds. I'm paused now. I just figure instead of waiting too long, at least just a little bit, so that it's not too long of just a empty seat. As we're about to get into our conclusion to Back to the Future Part 2, which is still a fun sequel, satisfying sequel. Still enjoy it quite a bit. And we're going to get Biff once again. Not only that, but another iteration of Are You Chicken? Which this will be the second time, well, no, the third time we've seen this Achilles heel. We saw it once in the future. We saw it with the older Marty. And now we're seeing it here. Again, each time he does it, something goes wrong. It never works out. So, don't do it. You know, just don't do that. It doesn't work out when you do that. It just doesn't. It just does not. See, this Biff would just kick you. When he's older, he'll kill you. So, definitely different. Yeah, sorry I keep being silent on stuff. Of course, a little bit of a callback for the hoverboard here. But it's nice to see this being used again. And very satisfying piece of equipment there. And Biv's like, what the hell's going on? What's all this about? Well, upward and onward. Like I said, it definitely felt like more of an action film in this instance, because you had, you know, the hoverboard chase in the future, you had the gunplay stuff in the 1985, and you have the race to save his own self, and you have this be here. Ooh. You know, with the hoverboard, you have those cool moments like flying off to the side there. Pretty good stunt work there by whoever was on the side there. Even the moments you see Michael J. Fox on the side of the car door. Grant, maybe I think a bit of that is rear projection? Can't even say it right. Rear projection. But there was definitely some good stunt work in the other sequences. That's cool, like that bit there with him going towards the truck and having to pull his legs back. Nice 180. Flip there. Now he's ready to kill. It's weird, like, the Nintendo made a, well, I guess, well, they did make a Back to the Future game. They did make a one on the second one called Back to the Future 2 and 3, which is, you could argue, is the worst Nintendo game of all time. Like, sincerely. And then in Japan, they made, like, a platformer that looked like it has its flaws, but looked a lot better than other stuff before. And that was on Super Nintendo. But like this movie felt like you could make it more into a video game, unlike the first movie. You know, look around the future, the races with the hoverboard, dodging gunfire, all the other stuff. I just see maybe how people, like, if they're watching the film and they're hopefully enjoying the film, you know, they want to see an ending. They paid their money, they paid their however many bucks it was back then. And then it's like, wait, what? How much time we have left? What? We don't get to see the ending. Yeah, wait till next year. I just see. If you didn't know that going in, I just see why you'd be a bit pissed. Like, I'm trying to think. Okay, let's say John Wick 2. Well, I mean, I guess it does end on a little bit of cliffhanger. He's on the run, to be fair. But still feel more concrete than this one. Jordan McFly honored. Receives an award. See, I don't know why Doc is flying around. Why does he just land? Like, why is he flying around? Just land the car. Like, there's no reason as to why he's flying around. In fact, that'd be more like noticeable because someone could be driving by and see this flying car just land behind the billboard. Why he didn't do that to begin with, I have no idea. Like, he flew up to and then landed for Marty, but just land the damn car. Unless he said in dialogue he couldn't, I can't remember. Maybe he said it some in dialogue. I can't remember what it was. I might have missed it, but and of course we saw earlier with all those bits on the computer of 1885. I forgot who this actor's name is. I know I've seen this guy coming up. I know I've seen him in other movies. Was it Joe Flaherty? I can't remember. But I know I've seen this guy before in other stuff. Yeah, wasn't he the pilot in Club Paradise? I think so. The fact that the mail actually took this letter and said, "Yeah, wait 100 years and deliver it to this one place," like it could have been easily forgotten, misplaced. Like, do you know how the mail works? I mean, I guess this is why it's this specific, not just the random post office. To be fair. But even these guys, like how hard it is to get a package, but yet these guys held a letter for 100 years and was able to get it. Well, 1885 to 1950, so not 100, but what was it? Would it be 70 years? Something like that. Alright. 67 years. Yeah, 60 to 70 years. Yeah. Plus, I think the guy even said it, and I just passed by it. I do like the way that the film ends. I think it's really funny where, the doc from 1955 is like, yes, I succeeded, everything's fine. And then here comes Martin McFly coming, and just his reaction, no, I said you're back to the future. No, I'm back from the future. Praise God. I did that as a fun way to end the movie. Plus, I mean, you understand, I mean, VHS was becoming a new, a thing. It had been out for, but, I mean, granted, it had been out for a while, to be fair, but home video didn't seem as common then as it was nowadays, so the fact that people could see these scenes again that they witnessed and enjoyed, and we get to see them again, felt satisfying to an audience. Nowadays, it's like, well, no, we'll just watch on our computer and YouTube or stuff, but fairly different back then. I think Alan Silvestri's music plays this whole scene correctly too. Right when Martin McFly comes out, and then the music pipes up. What's up? Does that mean that he almost died? Almost got fried to send this back, and now he's all over again. To be concluded. Now, does this have the trailer? Yeah, it does. It has the. Because I think some parts they don't have the trailer to the third film. This does. Which is my least favorite Back to the Future film. It's not a bad film. It's okay. I can enjoy it, but I think just the Wild West motif is not my favorite motif. It's not my favorite era. And obviously because of the story, Martin McFly plays, a bit of a in the back compared. But I get it. It's like you did more Christopher Lloyd. Back to the Future Part 3. Yeah, they maybe people like, what? Like, they were seeing this whole up and down topsy-turvy roller coaster ride, and they wanted an ending. And it's like, oh, guess we gotta maybe just see the next one. And then if they saw the trailer and they're like, well, I don't like the Wild West, then maybe they'd be like, maybe I'll wait. But I mean, Back to the Future Part 3, I think as a kid I used to dislike it, but I can watch it now. But that'll be in the future, because that was one of the requests Shawn had. But with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. Thanks once again, Shawn. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.